Hi everybody, welcome to E-Content Development Center, Majlis Asian Science College, Puramannur. I am Ajay Kumar, Assistant Professor, PG, Department of Computer Science. In this session, I am going to explain ISO OSI model, which is a part of network course of BSc Computer Science and BCA program of University of Calicut. Through this session, I am going to explain architecture of ISO OSI model, different layers of ISO OSI model, different features and working of different layers and different protocols used in these layers. After this session, you will get an idea about the working of ISO OSI model and the different layers and their features. First of all, I am going to explain the model. Actually, what is model? Everybody knows that in order to communicate to devices, the help of the software is needed. That is the help of the communication software. In order to develop this communication software, you need a model. There are two different models are used to develop this communication software. One is ISO OSI model and TCP IP model. Most popular model is ISO TCP IP model. A model describes the architectural design of the software. So almost all networks follow this model. I am going to explain the architecture of the ISO OSI model. Before going to take the topic, we have to discuss some topic, that is layered architecture. Layered architecture means a communication software has to complete its communication process. A lot of tasks are needed in order to complete the successful completion of the communication. These tasks are divided into small tasks and assigned to each layer. Each layer execute this task by using protocols. This type of architecture is used in the ISO OSI layer. Layered architecture provides modularity and independence. The basic components of layered architecture is service, protocol and interface. Service is the actions given to lower layer to upper layer. Protocol is the way of exchange of messages among peer layers. Interface is the way in which the information is passing among layers. Next, we are going to our topic ISO OSI model. OSI means Open System Interconnection. ISO means International Standard Organization. This International Standard Organization develops the architecture. This architecture gives how information flows from an application software of one computer to the application software of the next computer through a physical medium. The ISO OSI model develops 1984. ISO OSI model have 7 layers, which is explained the next part. Next, we explain what are the 7 layers. The first layer of ISO OSI model is physical layer. The second layer is data link layer. Third layer is network layer. Fourth layer is transport layer. Fifth layer is session layer. Sixth layer is presentation layer. And the last layer, the 7th layer, topmost layer is application layer. Next one is characteristics of ISO OSI model. Top 4 layers, that is application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transportation layer is called upper layers. Network layer, data link layer, physical layer. These three layers are called lower layers. Upper layer is mainly deals with the host part of the network, and the lower layer deals with the network part of the networking. Network part means hardware components, deals with the managing the hardware components of the network. Upper layer mostly deals with the software components of the network. The functions of different layers. First, physical layer, it provides physical connection, activating, deactivating to the physical medium is done by physical layer. Error-free transmission of messages controlled by data link layer. Network layer is responsible for moving packets from source to destination. Transport layer is used for the reliable transfer of information from process to process. Next, session layer. It is used to establish, manage and terminate dialogues. Presentation layer is mainly used for translation, compression and encryption of data. Application layer is mainly used for the services to the user. Now we can explain the layers in detail. First, we have to discuss physical layer. Physical layer is mainly used for activating, maintaining, deactivating physical connections. It is responsible for transmission of raw bits from computer to computer. Next, voltage and data rates all are controlled by physical layer. It converts digital or mechanical signals, bits into electrical signals or optical signals. It is responsible for transmission and reception of unstructured data over the network. It converts digital or analog bits into electrical signals or optical signals. Next, we discuss the functions of physical layer. First, bit synchronization. Bit synchronization means sending device and receiving device must have a bit duration, same bit duration and timing. Then only the receiving device can actually understand the data. In order to achieve this bit synchronization, a clock is used. Next function of physical layer is bit rate control. Bit rate means number of bits sent per second. Next, physical topology. Physical topology means logical arrangements of devices in the network. Next, line configuration. Two types of line configurations are there. One is peer-to-peer configuration and the other is client-server configuration. Transmission mode. Physical layer responsible for the control of transmission defines the flow of data between devices. There are three types of transmission mode. One is simplex, other is half duplex, next one is full duplex. These functions are performed by physical layer. Next, we have to discuss data link layer. The main responsibility of data link layer is to node delivery. Next, error-free delivery of message. It receives data from network layer and add a physical address to this data and send it to physical layer. Next, we are going to discuss the functions of data link layer. First function of data link layer is framing. Framing means the data is coming from network layer and data link layer divides this data into small sizes and manageable sizes and add into a frame. That is called framing. Next one is physical addressing. Physical address or MAC address. Every network devices have a physical address which is given at the time of manufacturing of that device. It is called a physical address. The data link layer adds this physical address to this frame. Two types of addresses are added to the frame as an header. One is source devices physical address and destination devices physical address. It is called a physical addressing. Next one is error control. Different coding schemes are used by the data link layer to detect the errors in the bit transferred from devices, which is checked by receiving end. If any error is detected, the data is retransmitted. It is called error control. Access control. When more than two devices are using same link, one of the devices can access the medium. It is controlled by data link layer. Next, we are going to discuss network layer. The main functions of network layer is logical addressing, and logical addressing means every compute devices in the network have to identify by an address which is called IP address, which is also called a logical address. The maintenance of logical address is the part of network layer. The next duty of the network layer is to forwarding of packets from network to network. Next we are going to discuss functions of network layer. There are two functions. One is routing, other is logical addressing. Routing means a packet from a source to destination is passes through different networks. The duty of the network layer to find the shortest path from source to destination. That is called a routing. Next one is logical addressing. Every devices on the network have to be identified by using IP address. That is another name is logical address. The logical address is maintained by this network layer. Next, we are going to discuss transport layer. It is mainly used to process delivery of messages. It also divide the data into small segments and add a port number to this data. The port number is mainly used to identify the processes which is created this message. Next, transport layer provides a connection and connectionless services to the transport of this data. The main functions of transport layer is service point addressing. Service point addressing means port addressing. Port addressing is port number is a number which is used to identify a process in the host computer. While creating segments, the transport layer add this port number to these segments as an header, which identifies the processes in the receiving side. Next, segmentation and reassembly. Segmentation means the data coming from session layer and which is divided into small segments and sent to the receiving device. In the receiving side, the transport layer reassembles this data into original size and send back to session layer of the receiving device. That is called segmentation and reassembly. The transportation layer also provide a connection oriented transportation, connectionless transportation. Before sending data, receiving device and sending device establish a connection. And after connection establishment, the data can be sent. This is called a connection oriented data transmission. Connectionless transmission also possible in the transport layer. Transport layer provides two types of services: connection control. One is connectionless and the connection oriented services. The next one is multiplexing and demultiplexing. Multiplexing means transport layer access packets from different processes and differentiate it by using port number and send it to the network layer. Next we are going to discuss session layer. Session layer is mainly used to define how to start control and end conversation between applications. Functions of session layer. First function is dialogue control. This layer allows two systems to start communication with each other in half duplex or full duplex mode. Two processes can communicate with each other through dialogue control. Next point, synchronization. This layer allows a process to add checkpoints which are considered as synchronization point. That means if we transfer a file from one process to another process, during the transferring time, if any crash occurs, the checkpoint helps to transfer the data from where the last checkpoint is created. Otherwise, the entire data had to be transferred once again. This is called a synchronization. Next, we are going to discuss presentation layer. The main functions of the presentation layer is to concerned with the syntax and semantics of the information. Syntax and the semantics of the information. Next one is translation of information, compression, etc. are the main duties of presentation layer. Next functions of presentation layer. The first function is translations. Everybody knows that the character is represented in computers using different codes. Example, ASCII, Unicode, etc. So one computer uses one code and other computer uses other code. So the communication between these computers are not possible because these two computers uses different coding systems. So a translation is needed. This type translation is done by presentation layer. Next one is encryption. Encryption means some important data where is passing through a network, it must be converted into another form. Then only the hackers does not access this data. In order to convert this text to unreadable form, it is called encryption. The receiving end, the unreadable form, that is encrypted data, is again converted into original data. It is called decryption. The encryption and decryption is done by presentation layer. Compression means reducing the size of the data. When we transferring multimedia data like videos, audios, etc., it must be reduced. This is also done by the presentation layer. The last layer is application layer, which is the topmost layer of the ISO OSI model. The user application and users are actually interact with this layer, or user supporting protocols are also available in this layer. The main functions of application layer. First one is mail service. The sending and receiving of mail is possible. Network virtual terminal, which is used for remote login. Next, file transfer, which is used to transfer a file from one computer to another computer. Directory services. These are the main functions of application layer. The next, how data is known in different layers. First, three layers. The data is known as message. In transport layer, data is known as segments. In network layer, data is known as packet. In data link layer, data is known as frames, and in physical layer, it is a row of bits. The next one is the different protocols used in this different layers. Now, application layers mainly used protocols are DNS, DHCP, FTP, HTTPS, SMTP, SNMP, etc. In presentation layer, the compression softwares are used, JPG, MPEG, etc. Session layers, NFS, PAP, SCP protocols are used. In transport layer, TCP and UDP are the main protocols. In network layer, ICMP, IGMP, IPv4, IPv6 RIP are the main protocols. Data handling layer, ARP, ATM, HDLC are the main protocols. Physical layer, Bluetooth, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, etc. are the other protocol. I hope everybody get an idea about this topic. Thank you.